Welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Office chats with Northwest faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends to hear about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Career Services Assistant Director Travis Klein.
And I'm Hannah Christian, the Director of Career Services here at Northwest. And today's guest on our show, prerequisite drumroll, is
Hi, I'm Jackson Weddle. I'm a senior managerial accounting major, and yeah, happy to be here.
We're happy to
welcome,
have you.
Jackson.
Thank
It's really
you.
great to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you.
So, as I always do when I talk to students, I'm very interested in the many things, but the first two being number one, how did you get to Northwest? So kind of talk us through your journey from how, growing up, how you got to Northwest. And two, why did you choose managerial accounting as a major?
Well, Northwest was kind of just the obvious pick for me. My dad and mom both went here. My brother went here. Two of my uncles went here, and my dad works here now. So it was kind of just the place to be. As far as managerial accounting, in high school, I was always really good with numbers and problem solving, putting things together. So accounting just seemed like the right field. I talked to a couple of counselors, and they were like, "Look into this." So I said, "Sure," and it's just been a good fit so far.
So as a little connector piece, Travis, just so you can interleave our videos together. Who's your dad?
Todd Weddle, he works in the admin building in their marketing department.
The
So
amazing Todd Weddle, one of our
a little
favorite people.
throwback, yeah.
Yes. So, one of our
Todd was one of
first
our
guests on the
first.
podcast, in fact, I think our very first guest was Jill, and then we kind of kept it in the office and we extended it out. Like university marketing was one of the first people we reached out to, and Todd was very cool, very gracious to put up with our growing pains. So, yes,
So
Todd
did
is
you
fantastic.
never consider any other colleges? What was your thought process, I guess? I mean, I know your family came here, but did you think it through or were you just like, "Yep, Northwest all the way?"
Well, I pretty much grew up in exclusively Northwest clothing. I think half of my closet was Bearcat stuff. I looked at a couple other colleges and I applied to a few just because it was like a class assignment in high school we had to. So I think I applied to UMKC and Mizzou, but I wasn't going to come anywhere else.
So when you started taking classes here, then what was your first impression? Was it up to expectation or yeah, what are your thoughts?
It was a little different than I was expecting, I guess, mostly because of COVID. So a lot of hybrid and online classes. Spent a lot of days in class in my dorm room, which was odd. Um, and then, just every activity was socially distanced and with masks. And so it was just a little off the first year. But as years have gone on, the college experience has gotten more and more, tightly knit with the community and everything around us.
And you fully jumped into the college experience too, because you came onto my radar because of your show on the on the campus television station called Loosely Related. How did you get involved with those as an accounting major?
Well, my very good friend Riley, who's the producer of Loosely Related, she reached out to me in summer of 22 about a different show called It Takes All Kinds, which we filmed 4 episodes of that fall. And it was a little bit of a mess of a show, but it was very fun. We would go around to different places and we did Maryville, St. Joe, the dairy farm just north, and recorded different episodes about what people do and what it takes to be in their field. That show, the season ended, and then she said, "Why don't you just stay on? I've got a new show that I'm producing called Loosely Related, which we have guests on the show, and we do a little fun activity kind of related to something they do, like very loosely most
Well, the
times."
title's apt.
That's yeah. So, but it's just kind of like a little interview game show kind of thing.
Can you give us an example, maybe a little teaser?
So Todd Weddle, my dad, we had him on the show. I think he was our fourth guest, I want to say. And since he does photography, we did painting. But we did it with kind of like weird takes. So we did one where you had to look through a mirror and paint, which was extremely difficult. I think we did one in black light, and then we did one where we had paint paintbrushes taped to like yardsticks and had to paint from very far away. So it's just kind of like little fun activities like that.
So what's your role in terms of getting the show produced? What role do you fulfill, and how did you kind of find this niche for yourself?
My role most weeks is I get sent a very loose script with some questions on it, and I show up with maybe half the script memorized, and it's kind of like an ad lib from there. Um, as far as putting the show together, I have absolutely no idea what goes on behind the scenes. I'm not technically gifted like that at all. That's our wonderful crew. They do everything: cameras, lighting, editing, filming, everything. Couldn't do it without them.
Were you involved? So being a host, like on a TV show, that's difficult. Like we were talking before we started recording. I think that's the hardest part because the technical stuff you practice and you do in class, but hosting is hard. So were you involved in like theater in high school, or did you have a TV station in your high school or things like that? Or did you just fall into this because a friend asked you to?
Partially just because a friend asked me to, but senior and junior year of high school, I was in an improv comedy group in high school. So I had a little bit of that, just, off the cuff improv stuff. But that doesn't necessarily translate to hosting because I remember that first season of Loosely Related, we had to do several takes of like every shot because, it just wouldn't be quite right. Over the 2 semesters that we've done it, it's gotten a little bit better and we could do one take for most things.
Yeah, we feel that. I banged on the table a lot and said gotcha every other word in
Yeah.
the first probably 3 seasons of this show. So it's a certain type of learning where you have to really be open to having that critical feedback on how to do something better or in a more polished way, and that's super hard. I don't
Mhm.
know if people really understand that to take that feedback you're like, "Eh."
And such a good set of skills. Like, you mentioned you're a managerial accounting major. So probably going to work with numbers and things like that. But being able to command a room and to present and do that, that's gonna when you're out there looking for full-time jobs, like those skills are not going to be bad things for you to be able to put on a resume and talk about and then show them that you can do it too. So there's definitely, even though it's not related to your major, it's loosely related, right? It's
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
those good skills. So another thing that you're well known for on campus and people might recognize you from is Bearcats with Blazers, and you were one of the, like, founding Bearcats with that. So do you wanna tell us that story and kinda what that is if anybody's not on campus and aware of it?
So fall of 2021, there was a playoff game in like the freezing cold that nobody went to. The night before, my roommate Nick Verwers and I went to Walmart and we found these like Bearcat Blazers for $20 and we said these are hilarious. We're buying them. And so it was like a completely empty stadium with just us two. We went all the way up to the front and just screamed our hearts out. I think we lost, but it was just the most fun we've ever had. So we came back the next year and we had 5 guys standing in the stands with their blazers on and sunglasses for the first game, and it's kind of snowballed from there. At the end of that season, I think we probably had maybe 10 guys out in the crowd with signs, chants, everything. We went to basketball games, which was really fun. We had different free throw distractions and everything. We've done a couple different events with people around campus and around Maryville. I know we did some stuff with Big Brothers Big Sisters, who have been awesome to work with, and the student body. So it's just like different things. And then last night was the first home game for Northwest this year, and there were probably 30 different people out there in Blazers, which was just awesome. We had so many signs, and there was lightning delays, but it was all fun.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you all have created something that's going to outlive your time here at Northwest. Like Bearcats with Blazers will continue on even after you all are gone. I noticed Walmart has gotten more of those Blazers since you bought them, even though they've been on clearance for like the last 9 months. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting to see kind of how that's grown. And you have an amazing social media presence as well. Is that some who runs that? Is that someone who's involved with it, or is an outside entity? Or
That's again my roommate and I, Nick. He's a marketing major, so that's kind of his thing. But it's basically we try to get as much content as we can out just to like show that we're doing things and we're out having fun in the community, supporting Northwest. And our plan this year is to go to like support even more teams because it's like we're supporting the teams mainly. So last year it was mainly football and basketball, and I think we did one softball game. But this year, I know we're planning to do like track and cross country just to get out there to support them. I think maybe tennis would be fun. Soccer, definitely.
Yeah, those are great goals.
Mhm.
So how does this translate if you're a managerial accounting major? How like what's your strategy for translating your experiences into what do you want to do after you graduate?
Oof, that's the $1,000,000 question. The answer probably would be I'm not sure yet, which is I know it's getting a little close, but I think I work right now at the Faust Center for Alumni Relations, doing a little bit of their gift processing. So I think that's going to help me, translate into an accounting job. But I'd like to get an internship right out of college and then do something from there.
So far, what's the best part about that experience that you've had at the Faust House in terms of accounting specific things?
I think it's a lot of the problem solving. Sometimes we'll get something and we'll have absolutely no idea what it is. So we have to go on a wild goose chase for like an hour just to track down this one thing from this one person 6 months ago. So I think it'll be really good going forward just to know that attention to details there and that problem solving skills are there.
Because I mean, again, never taken a business class, especially not accounting. So from if you're coming from like maybe the more creative side of the spectrum, you're like, oh, accounting seems like a terrible and boring job. But obviously you find it interesting and fun. So what other aspects, maybe in class, like what have you learned through your coursework that makes you still want to continue in that vein?
I think it's a lot of like the little cool things in accounting, how it's always satisfying getting something to balance out. And that's just one of the best feelings I think to me, or getting an equation in Excel to pull everything right is very satisfying. It's just a little, mathematical awesomeness.
The
I think
universe is
accounting is one of
aligned.
those. I feel like it's one of those fields that's really misunderstood too. People think like you have to do taxes if you're an accountant, or you have to be a bookkeeper and you're in a dark room with your ledgers and that's it. But accounting you can do like fundraising and gift work for universities. You can almost every business has some kind of accounting you know offshoot somewhere because somebody's got to keep track of the books. So really, you can go anywhere and work in almost any industry and still do the accounting part of it. I know logistics is one we've seen a lot of students in the last 5 6 years. They'll have that kind of numbers and Excel knowledge, and then that really translates well to how do you pack a truck? How do you make sure that you're getting the most money out of a shipment for somebody? So there's definitely some really cool opportunities with that. And I think with
Like
internships too, you mentioned doing an internship, you can try little things like that and see what
Yeah.
you like. And maybe you try something like, oh, I don't like that. So I don't want to do that for a job. Like that's super valuable too.
I was gonna say, people like me in the world need people like you, Jackson. We need people like you to keep us in line and keep the finances moving in a positive and forward direction.
Yeah,
Much
I'll try
appreciated
my
that skill
best.
set.
One of the things we always like to do on the show, especially with seniors, I always like to ask the question, like, you're almost done. You said December 2024 when we were kind of
Mhm.
pre-roll chatting. So you're at that final stage. What if you could go back and kind of talk to yourself coming in as a freshman? What would you tell yourself? Is there any advice, anything you do different, anything maybe you would have, tried a different approach at than how you did? COVID notwithstanding, of course, I'm sure that changed everything. But
Yeah, I think I would have just told myself to like, meet more people because I don't feel like I've met that many people until like these last 2 years. And my first year was kind of, again, COVID didn't help, but it was very secluded. And I think just getting out and doing more activities around campus is always a good thing to do to get, involved, meet people, make connections just everywhere.
And I'm not sure we necessarily ask this of students, but I'm also kind of interested in your take on if you're a student, maybe a freshman, first time freshman, and you're looking for employment in Maryville or on campus, do you have any tips or maybe insider information on maybe how do I find some productive work or internships or something where I can maybe contribute or make some money here at Northwest?
I think, online resources are always great. Indeed, everything like that. I know Northwest has a great place that you can apply for dozens, if not hundreds, of jobs here on campus. Um, but I think going in is also always good. Talking to people, networking, I think could be a really good resource for students.
That's hard to
It's
do sometimes.
it
Yeah,
is, but, it's funny
definitely.
to me, we have students come in all the time into our office and say, "I'm really looking for a campus job, it's really hard to find something," but as we've done these interviews, especially this season, it seems like when we talk with faculty and staff, they're all talking about how hard it is to find somebody to take their campus jobs, and, good students are so hard to find, and people start, but they don't finish, so I think students have to put themselves out there as the first step. Like, you got to tell people you're looking and going and talking to people. Like, even just sending an email outside of your application through NeoGov, which is our kind of back in system we use. Like, even just that can be enough sometimes to tell them that you're kind of a go getter and that you're the type of person they want to work for you. So,
But don't you think COVID affected that a little bit? I mean, you're just saying your initial experience of campus, right? As a student living on campus was sort of this isolating experience. That's really difficult to come out of, I think.
Yeah, I think, I had to do a shoot with my dad because 'cause I'm, like, his forever extra in videos, of a convocation video, where you go up and ring the bell, and I was like, "I never got to do this freshman year." Like, I didn't get to walk through the bell tower, there weren't people just standing around, and so it was very different freshman year, but I think things have gotten better, and I think, obviously, campus numbers have gone way up, which is awesome. There's so many more people on campus just to meet and get involved with. You can start new clubs, you can go out and do things. I think sophomore year was it, I started a disc golf club just because, me and a couple guys like to do it, and we just went and we grown from there.
How do you start a club?
Uh, I think you go onto the Presence website, which you can get through from the Northwest page, and there's a button that says request to start an organization, and it's a slightly tedious process. You have to write like a constitution for your club, which was a little bit of a hassle, but we got it done, and
for
then
a
you go to
disc
student
golf club,
senate.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I think we copied and pasted ours from another club and then changed some words, but that's neither here nor there.
So was that, I guess, could you share maybe a little bit more about your process from that freshman year of solitude? Like, what steps did you take to kind of, I know COVID again, everything sort of opened up, things were kind of locked down, but what, like, maybe mentally or maybe even like socially, what steps did you walk through to maybe put yourself out there a little bit more later on through these second and third years of college?
I think a great thing for me was because second year I was still on the dorms. I lived in Tower Suites, and it was just meeting people in my own hall, just going out and talking to them. We had hall meetings once every 2 months, and it would just be talking to people around there in the laundry room, down in the kitchen, just chatting with people. Just not even in your hall; it can be in your own building too. And that I think translates to talking to people in class and just on campus when you run into someone, which I think is a good way to connect with other people and just feel more connected to the school in general.
What do I do if I'm too afraid to talk? I'm doing this for Travis. This is for Travis's
yeah, I'm the introvert of the group, so for sure.
If you're too afraid to talk, I think
Like, how do you like, this is very, it seems like a silly question, but if I'm trying to put myself back in my own, like, freshman shoes, and it just seems terrifying to me to go talk to someone I don't know, like, recommendations.
I think having a shared experience is a great like in. So I think that's how a lot of people, connect with people in classes. Like if there's this really hard test and you're like, ah, crap, you're like, do you want to like study later? Just crank out this test or something along those lines. I think even starting with like a small smile or a wave to someone, just in classes could go a long way towards, making those friendships and connections down the road.
Yeah, and the nice thing is on campus, you're all at least Northwest students, if not, within the same major or within other clubs. So you've got some common ground with everybody that's here on campus in some way or another. So even if you're not super extroverted. So
Travis would say you need to go to trivia night, but
yeah, if there's whatever it is to get your find your tribe. So what do you think? So again, being a student who's gone through COVID and kind of, been through the end of it, what are your thoughts on like remote work? Like I would think, we hear a lot of about a good 50-50 mix, I'd say, of students who absolutely don't want to work remote. They want to be in a workplace. They want to talk to people. And then the other half are like, oh, I don't ever want to go to work. I want to work from my house. I want to do that. Where do you fall on that? Or is there somewhere in the middle maybe?
I think if I was to work from home, I would just not get very much done. And I think being in the office around other people that can, not only assist you, but just chat with you on the day to day, is very nice and it'll keep you productive, I think. At the same time, taking classes from home instead of having to go to class is incredible. I love that. Because I can just have all my work right here and not have to even move to take a test, a quiz, write a paper, anything.
Yeah, definitely think there are pros and cons to both of it for sure, and it definitely depends on the type of work that you do too. So, because we
And the
even
best way
found,
you work. Yeah, the
yeah,
best way that you work. Go
yeah,
ahead,
because
Travis.
even for us, like there's four of us in our office, and we work very differently, and it doesn't necessarily, I really enjoyed working from home, but I kind of like to have a list and tick things off a list, so it worked, but it doesn't necessarily work for somebody that needs that interaction as much. So,
It's hard for me to wander around and talk to people whenever there's no place to wander around and talk to people. So, that whole aspect of just serendipitous conversations where you get a lot of work done.
mhm.
Um, it's totally out with remote work. So I don't know, maybe you're lurking on Slack or I've not worked remotely long enough to know about those things. But anything else? Any other tips maybe for incoming Bearcats?
A big one is go to games. I think football games are one of the best ways to meet people. Just sitting in the student section stands. Um, there's so many people just cheering at the same time. You get a touchdown, you cheer, you turn to the person to your left, you meet them, you go crazy. It's it's a wild experience. If you haven't gone, you should. Because a lot of people don't.
Even a this is so funny. When I was going to school, my undergrad, and we went to all the football games, the Bearcats were not good. And it was still fun. You can
Yeah,
go to a losing game and it is still fun and worthwhile.
And it helps that it's free for students too. It doesn't cost you a bunch of money out of your pocket. You can just go and enjoy yourself, and it's not like a huge expense or something that you have to plan for. You can just kind of show up and go. So,
Other games too. I think I loved that it was great that you mentioned check out soccer. The
mhm.
soccer games are really fun to go to. Softball, track, cross country is I mean, my new favorite sport. My daughter's running cross country this year. You go there, the game does not last for hours. Like you go to cross country meet, you're there for half an hour and you're good to go. So
And
it's
I've
super easy
appreciated
to support.
the Bearcats and Blazers. Like, you went to basketball games. You didn't just go to the men's basketball game. Our men's basketball team has been very good and they get a lot of attention, but you also went to the women's basketball game and they've not been as successful lately. So I liked that you guys were kind of promoting all of athletics at Northwest, not just football and basketball. They're the national champions and are really good. So it's nice to see that too. So,
I know a lot of the times the women's games were almost more fun than the men's
mhm.
games
Mhm.
because we were the only ones there. It felt like, but you really felt connected to the team. And if it was like a really close game, that's more exciting than if our men's team plays like the worst seed in our division and just blows them
It
out
blows
70 to
everybody out.
20.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just you can get more out of it, I think.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a guest and for all that you do with the loosely related TV show on the campus TV station, and for the Bearcats and Blazers, both of which I think are absolutely fantastic and really show what a
Check them out.
talented young man that you are. Yes, check them out. I'll have links in the videos and things like that for you guys too. So really appreciate you being a guest today, though.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, that will do it for another episode of Behind the Bearcat, and we'll talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, be sure to give us a thumbs up below. That helps out. Also, if you've not done so yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Also, we'd love to connect with you on social media. You can find Behind the Bearcat on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Plus, the audio podcast comes out on Fridays on all the major podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching Behind the Bearcat, and as always, we'll talk to you next time.